Suddenly I began to feel my heart constrict. It was like someone had got me into a tight vice-like grip and they were squeezing my ribs. My throat became dry, my lips became dry. I began to hyperventilate. It's like I was suffocating, I was struggling to breathe. My eyes became wide, my muscles tensed up, and I just began to feel dizzy. I later found out that what was happening to me was a panic attack.
أخي أنت حر وراء السدود أخي أنت حر بتلك القيود إذا كنت بالله مستعصما فماذا يضيرك كيد العبيد فماذا يضيرك كيد العبيد.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. On Friday the 5th of October 2012, I lost my 8-year battle against extradition to the United States. I was blindfolded, shackled, I had earmuffs put over me, and I was taken to a Royal Air Force base in the east of England, and I was put onto a small private jet, and I was flown across the Atlantic to the state of Connecticut on the east coast of the United States. The next morning, which was Saturday the 6th of October 2012, I was taken to a Supermax prison. A Supermax prison, also known as a level 5 facility, is the highest security prison in the US. And it's meant for prisoners who are so dangerous because they have either killed or harmed other prisoners or they've killed or harmed officers. They are so dangerous that they cannot be held on general population, and so they are kept in a Supermax prison. A Supermax prison is complete solitary confinement. So I was taken to this prison, and as soon as I arrived there, the officers, they stripped me naked on camera, and they put these 2 pieces of cloth over me, and then they walked me under restraint, and they walked me along this long corridor, and they put me into this freezing cold empty cell which was smelling of feces. And they shut the door, and all I had was these 2 pieces of cloth. 1 piece of cloth to cover me from my shoulder to my knees, and another piece of cloth, a small piece of cloth, which I could cover myself with. It was about 14 degrees Celsius inside that cell. The air conditioning was on. The cell was a concrete cell. At the far end was a 3-inch by 36-inch slit window, and outside I could just see a concrete wall. On the door on the other side was another 3-inch by 36-inch window, and when I looked in there I could just see mirrors. Like it plays mind tricks on you when you look outside, because there's mirrors and then there's glass, and you get confused if someone is walking from the right, they're actually coming from the left. There was a stainless steel toilet and sink in the cell. There was a bed. The toilet did not flush. I had to ask the officers to flush it. There was only 2 strips of toilet paper inside that cell. No soap, no toothbrush, nothing to read, nothing to write with, nothing to do. And the water in the sink, if you push the button, then water comes out for 60 seconds and then it stops. You push it again, water comes out for 60 seconds and then it stops. So here I was placed on my first day in prison in the United States. I'm thousands of miles from home. I'm away from my family. And I'd been reassured that everything would be okay in the US and I'll be treated humanely. And I remember chuckling to myself of how false that was. So the second day, after about 24 hours in that cell, one afternoon, I was just standing in the middle of the cell, and suddenly I began to feel my heart constrict. It was like someone had got me into a tight vice-like grip, and they were squeezing my ribs. My throat became dry, my lips became dry, I began to hyperventilate. It's like I was suffocating, I was struggling to breathe. My eyes became wide, my muscles tensed up, and I just began to feel dizzy. I later found out that what was happening to me was a panic attack. The reason I'm able to talk about it so openly is because I've had therapy to deal with it. So whilst that was going on, then all of a sudden, and I was in extreme fear, because it's like the thought that hit me that, oh my God, I'm in America now. I might spend the rest of my life here. I might never see my family again. I might die in a cell like this. And I was gripped with fear. Then I began to recite Surah Yusuf, Surah number 12 of the Quran. And I didn't have a copy of the Quran. Whatever I'd memorized, I began to recite it. And as I began to recite it, everything calmed down. My heart rate calmed down, my breathing calmed down, and I began to feel safe and secure once again. And eventually, by the time I got to the end of that surah, I was feeling optimistic and I was filled with hope again. The scholars, they said that there's no one who is going through a calamity or who is on the verge of losing hope who recites Surah Yusuf except that he will be filled with hope and courage and strength and inspiration by the end of it. And Surah Yusuf, it tells the story of a man to whom much wrong was done. He was betrayed by his own blood brothers. Sometimes the most harm comes to you from those that are closest to you. He was then sold in slavery. He was subjected to trials and temptations and accusations, and he was kept away from his beloved parents for a period of, some say 40 years, some say more, some say less, but a huge amount of time. But in the end, everything worked out for him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that surah, he said that story is ahsanul qasas, meaning it is the best of stories. The best story that has ever been told to humankind is the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, and you can find that surah in surah number 12 of the Quran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أخي أنت حر وراء السدود أخي أنت حر بتلك القيود إذا كنت بالله مستعصما فماذا يضيرك كيد العبيد فماذا يضيرك كيد العبيد أخي أنت حر